Welcome to Paul Giamatti.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Wow, man, there's a lot of people here.
Yes, there are.
Holy cow.
So I'm going to start off with a couple of questions about Barney's version and maybe a few more about your career, and then we'll take a few from this warm audience. I'm curious how this project developed for you. Is this something where they came to you, or you heard about it and you thought, I'd like to play Barney?
Oh.
Or, just how did the first steps begin?
They came to me.
Okay.
I'm sure that they went to other people before they came to me. But they eventually came to me because they heard I was available or something. So eventually they came to me. I knew of the book and I knew of him, but I'd never read it. But I knew what the character was supposed to be like, so I got the script and I read it. It was fairly standard kind of procedure.
Did you have any reservations, hesitations about playing this guy, or you felt you could relate to him?
Yeah. There was, no, I didn't have any reservations about it. No,
Okay.
That's not necessarily because I could relate to the guy, but that's because he seemed like it would be a juicy, fun part to play.
Yeah.
And I was very keenly interested in the young ladies they would get to play my wives. And I thought, this is an opportunity that I'm not going to get again anytime soon. And I just thought there was nothing about it, the scope of it, the spread of time, the aging, all that stuff. No, there was nothing, no reason not to do it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Now, your character, Barney, he is self-aware, he's self-deprecating, he's also self-loathing, I think. Why? I mean, when you were trying to get inside the character, what did you feel that Barney's kind of self-loathing might be rooted in, if you think that was part of his character?
It's in there. I don't know. I mean, he likes himself, too, in a lot of ways. But, yeah, there's definitely self-loathing. I mean, I think there's a sense in which the interesting part of this movie to shoot was the very first thing we did, which is when he's youngest in Rome. And that was the most interesting, it was the least enjoyable part to play as an actor, because he was the most sort of bound up, and he's trying to live this sort of bohemian existence. It doesn't really suit him. Right. And his wife says, you're a voyeur, and and there's this way in which he is this outsider looking in. And I think there's this incredible sort of passionate sensibility in him, that there's this incredible kind of bursting, vital, romantic thing in him that he's constantly having to sit on and having to repress and having to fight against. And I think a lot of self-loathing maybe comes out of that, I don't know. But there was a lot of this sense of this guy having to contain himself all the time that was the root of a lot of things for me in finding the character, I think.
That's good. Now, I'm curious if you were familiar with The Apprenticeship of Duddy Kravitz by the same writer, Mordecai Richler, and if you've seen the film that was made from that novel, did you feel any kinship with Richard Dreyfuss's character at all? Could they be related, Barney and
Well, sure,
Duddy?
yeah. I mean, they definitely... I remember that movie coming out. I remember my mother being obsessed with that movie for some reason. She was obsessed with Richard Dreyfuss. She just loved Richard Dreyfuss. So anything Richard Dreyfuss did. So I remember that being very present because of that. I have seen the movie. I did not watch the movie around this time at all because I didn't want to get that in my head too much, or him, because there is some similarity in the characters. It is a somewhat sort of younger version of the guy, but he's a bit more of a slicky con man. He's a bit more of a slickster than Barney is. So he's different. But, there's a kind of triumvirate of novels. There's Duddy Kravitz, and there's Joshua Then and Now, and then there's Barney's version. And they are sort of three different guys who are similar at three different stages of their lives. So they are. He was writing some sort of Pilgrim's Progress of this guy, through his life.
And
of this
presumably
type that he knew.
a lot of Mordecai Richler himself
Yeah.
enters into these characters.
Yeah.
But I think that what you said earlier is quite relevant, that for Barney, I mean, having to kind of repress whatever might be the best part of himself at times, that's pretty different from Duddy Kravitz,
Yeah.
who's really externalized
Doesn't
it at all.
repress anything. Yeah.
Nothing.
No.
No. You are utterly convincing in this film as both a very young man and an older man.
Oh, that's
and
good.
I don't think it's just a question of makeup. I wanted you to talk a little about how you approached playing essentially 2 or 3 different characters, because Barney changes a bit in the course of this movie. Was it shot all in sequence? Because you said the first was the Rome, and then the middle part, and then the latter? No.
No, they just happened to start it with the beginning, with the youngest phase of it in Rome, because we started in Rome because it was cheaper, I suppose. But that's what we started with. The rest of it, no, it was out of sequence.
Okay.
There was no way to be able to really keep it in sequence. So there were days when I was old, and I was 40, and I was 60, and I was 55, and I was 40 again. So, but the makeup really did help me a lot. I mean, the makeup was vital, and you have it's a very intense relationship with those guys who do that makeup. It's a very good makeup job, too, in this. It's very subtle in a lot of ways. So the makeup did help me a lot. I'm glad that I was convincing in it, because I wasn't so sure I was all that convincing in it. But the hardest thing to do is to play the younger guy. I was terrified of looking like a jackass playing the younger guy. And I had to wear a wig, and that was much harder for me to access than the older guy. Part of it being that he's less fun when he's younger. He's a lot more fun when he's older. He doesn't give a crap anymore. He really doesn't care anymore. So he's a much more out there character when he's older, as he gets older. Younger, I was really concerned I was just going to look like a fool. And I don't remember what the hell it was like to be. I just don't remember. Getting old, I can see that coming. And I was like, yeah, that I can do. And it was funny because, we had these wonderful, these wigs, and the guy said to me the first day we put the wigs on, he said, what's really great is we can break the wigs down. As you get older, we can have smaller and smaller wigs. Until you're 65, you can have your own hair. And I was just like, wow, man, okay, that's cool. So I don't know. In terms of playing them, there's all sorts of physical cues that I would give myself, and certain kinds of, he's a smoker and a drinker. There's things that added weight to me as I got older and stuff like that. I mean, I don't know.
Well, no, and obviously from the very beginning of the film, the opening shot is the cigar and the scotch. I mean, these become kind of extensions of Barney's body from beginning to end, and it's just the way that you hold the glass or the way that you smoke might be changing a little bit.
Yes, that's true. Well, what I smoke changes, and there's a big sort of jump that happens in that second marriage. He starts smoking the big honkin' cigars, and he's making a switch up that's he doesn't really want to be making, but the hell with it, he's going to get to smoke good cigars, and he's going to get to drink better booze than he's been drinking. So, I mean, all of that stuff definitely, change the curvature of your body when you have those things as they change. And, the beard, the hair, all that stuff,
And it was also for me, I mean, again, maybe I'm projecting a little, but the eyes, there's like a tiredness in the eyes, and it's not just the wrinkles that were added. I mean, there's something about your gaze that does change with each decade.
Yeah.
And I thought that was very well done.
No, well, he's burning himself up all the time, that guy. He's tired when he reaches the end of this thing. He's like an exhausting person to everybody else, but mostly to himself. I mean, and I was exhausted playing the part, so I have a feeling some of that tiredness you're seeing is me being kind of exhausted.
Understood.
It was tiring.
Can you talk a little about working with Dustin Hoffman? Because watching the film tonight for the second time, I had a slightly different reaction from my first viewing a few weeks ago, when, frankly, I saw the character of Barney as pretty dastardly. I mean, there was something about Barney that I really wanted to keep it at a distance. And tonight I was realizing he's a damn good son, and that the relationship between son and father is actually quite touching, despite
nice.
the other relationships that are problematic in the film. Dustin Hoffman, who I guess could have played Barney 30 years ago.
He could have played it now, frankly. He could have done it now. He's got more energy than me. Yeah.
But I was totally convinced of your relationship. Can you talk a little about how you work together?
Well, no, I mean, that's interesting, too, because that is one of the things that humanizes the character the most, I think, is that relationship with the father. And it is a nice, because so often in a movie, you don't see this kind of naughty boy, complicit relationship that they have.
That's right.
Oftentimes there's some sort of tension between a father and son in a movie. But this is they're like kind of naughty, dirty little boys together. It's really funny. And he, I don't know, he's great. I mean, I knew him a little bit from something else.
You had made Confidence, Edward Burns
I did a movie
film?
called Confidence. But I never did anything with Dustin in it, but he and I were in it together. And a kind of con man thriller movie. And he's great in it, Dustin. So I knew him a little bit, and I knew that he's this kind of really fantastic raconteur, and he's nuts. He's really kind of nuts in a wonderful way, and only in a good way. He's just bananas, and he's got incredible energy, and he sees that as part of his job is to keep everybody laughing and up and moving the whole time. I mean, he's incredibly energetic. Working with him, I don't know. It's weird because he kind of is like this character in some ways. And I didn't know if he was pulling some old school actor studio shit on me or something, or whether he really was kind of like this guy, if he just was this dirty, foul-mouthed guy. But anyway, he was really inviting me in that way, and he's a very sweet man. He's very paternal anyway, or he was with me. And again, I don't know whether that was something he was doing or not. But actually working with him, it's scene by scene, it was fascinating because he'll just do it completely straight and it's fine and it's great. And then you'll go in and he doesn't feel comfortable with it. And he literally rehearses on camera. Yeah. But it's not just rehearsing. He will drag the scene through the ringer and rip it apart and just, we'll just splatter it all over the place and make a complete mess out of it. And you got to go with him. And so you're just making a mess of it with him. And eventually he pulls it all back in, and suddenly you've ended up at some place you had no idea you were going to go to in this scene. And he does it because he says, screw it, I don't like feeling confined by this scene, so I'm going to screw around with it. And we're going to see where that takes us, and then we'll pull it back in. And
the director let him do it.
Well, sure. What are you going to do? Tell him, what are you going to do? Tell him he can't do that? He's going to,
Yeah. Now, the title of this film is Barney's Version. And I know, although I haven't read the novel, that the novel is narrated by Barney. It's his story with 3 sections, each corresponding to one of the wives. But when you were getting into this role, did you think that there was another version? In other words, once you have the notion of a version, for me it opens up, is there another? Was there any other way that you thought of the character or the events of this film apart from your own perspective?
Wow. That's an interesting thing. I mean, it was one of the reasons I stayed away from the book was I didn't want to get that version of things, and it's such a different book. And it's... I don't know, there was some notion actually of even playing with that idea more of things being repeated and having them be different versions of events. I don't know, that's an interesting question. I don't know that I ever thought of that. No, not particularly that I would, you mean would I go back and do it a different way?
Not so much that, but I guess the way that Barney comes across, especially in the first half of the film, he's a pretty condescending, badly behaved guy.
Yeah.
But it's his version that we're seeing. In other words, he's being hard on himself in his own flashbacks.
Yes.
It occurred to me that Miriam's version might actually be kinder.
Yes.
In other words, that we might see a more sensitive side of Barney than he himself is capable.
I think you do anyway when he really finally sort of hooks up with her. You see somebody who's more grounded in his own craziness, but you do see something of a better version of him. Yeah, no, yes, and hopefully you get some different angles on him enough that it's not, that you do get different versions of him. Hopefully, I don't know.
Yeah, no, you do. I think
hopefully.
Especially on a
frankly,
second
if I could do it again, I would make him worse, actually. I thought he was too nice, frankly. I actually said to them a couple of times, he could be a lot worse, actually. And they were like, dude, we want people to see this movie and enjoy it. And I was like, well, he's pretty bad in the book. He's worse in the book. He's worse in a way. But that may be because you're so trapped by that voice in a first-person narration. So, I don't know.
Now, in terms of version, I hope you don't mind. I'm going to ask you a question that's been plaguing me since I saw the film the first time, which is, how did Boogie die? And I thought, if I get the opportunity to have you as a guest,
Oh, man.
what do you think happened? Because it's been bothering me
Is it not
ever
clear?
since. To me, it is
Oh,
not
man.
clear.
Say what, man? All right, that dude got it. We should. His body. I did not shoot him.
Right,
There's no
that we
bullet
know.
in his body. He falls in the water and he's drunk and screwed up and
Right.
he's drowned or he's drowns in some way. That fire plane that you see at the end picks up his body. That's the idea. That's why you see it dropping that ball at the end. That's why you see it.
It wasn't perfectly clear to me. Sorry.
Wow, people are going to come after me right now, aren't they? That's the idea.
Listen to all this mumbling. Okay, we're going to stop for a
That's
second.
the idea.
It was just I didn't make that particular
Yeah,
connection.
no.
Okay.
That's
All right.
totally fine. That's the idea. Hey,
Was there extra footage shot that was cut out in the editing?
there was a lot of trouble with that ending, to be frank. But
Yeah,
yes,
'cause
they
let's
had a
just
lot
say,
of
right
trouble trying to tie that up and having to do that, which is, it's a tricky plot thread,
But the rest of the film is, I think, relatively clear.
Clear, I
in
hope
the
so,
depiction.
yes.
So this was like
I play Barney, and yes, that was all clear. I get old. I got 3 wives. All right. That was all clear.
All right. Now, in terms of clarity, I'll muddle it slightly by asking that, as in the movie Sideways,
Yeah.
you play varying shades of drunk. I took that from the press kit, by the way. It's not my
Does
original.
that say
thought.
that in the press kit?
Well, yeah,
Variation?
I like the phrase quite a bit.
Yeah.
And because Michael Caine was in that seat a few weeks ago, also talking about incarnating inebriation, could you talk a little about how you approach scenes in which your character clearly has to be with a loss of control in terms of the character? How do you approach that?
Well, it's tricky. Both of those characters, well, this guy even more so than the guy in Sideways, he really is buzzed all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, he's kind of drunk all the time. He's just a lot more drunk a couple of times. I've had to play drunks a lot. I don't know why. I've had to play them on stage a lot. I've had to play them on. I don't know what it is about me. It just says drunk, but something seems to. It's an interesting thing. It's a it's a case by case thing because yes, you need to be more visibly drunk. You also need to be more visibly drunk and tonally right for the scene. So sometimes it has to be funnier than other times, and sometimes it. So that's always a tricky thing to know how much to push it, and sometimes to push it more is going to make it funnier or not. So there's all different levels of it. There's all different kinds of drunks. I mean, people get drunk in very different ways and at different times and at different levels of it, because some people can drink themselves into sobriety. So, I mean, it's a tricky thing. It's always a case-by-case thing. But in this instance, in this movie, the couple of times I'm really visibly drunk needed to be funnier more than not. It needed to somehow have a kind of comedic tone to it. And to do that, I don't know, there's different ways of playing drunk. You're always playing against being drunk. I mean, somebody who's wicked hammered does not want to appear to be hammered, I mean, and the more hammered you get, the more you're going to be damn sure you're not going to appear to be drunk. So there's constantly that kind of tension to fight against. And
The tension you're describing is precisely the way that Michael Caine described his approach to the scenes in Educating Rita.
yeah,
You're
fighting against appearing drunk. You whatever you do, and it's really a guy who gets that drunk regularly does not want to appear to be drunk. Somebody who gets drunk for the hell of it's going to have a good time cutting loose and having everybody know they're drunk. But a real alcoholic like that wants to hide it. They don't want anybody to see that they're drunk. They can handle it. They can do it. So it's interesting.
No. And I, of course, recognize or appreciate the distinction between the kind of drinking in this film, which is a wee bit on the excessive side for me, and the drinking in Sideways, which, while excessive, was so much the heart of the story that,
Yes.
For me, that's still one of the most remarkably loving moments is your character, Miles, extolling the virtues of Pinot Noir, representing, obviously, the character's own fragility.
Yeah.
And to me, that's just a moment where wine as metaphor becomes transcendent.
No, and the whole thing with drinking in that movie, too, is it's very different because it's for this guy, in many ways, it is truly this kind of passion, and it's an art and all these things. He's also drinks too much and is an alcoholic, but so it becomes a much more interesting set of metaphors and set of tensions in that movie, and it is much more a part of that movie. Whereas the drinking in this is a part of the character, but it's not necessarily a thing for the movie.
Yeah. And I'm curious because when I think back on the directors with whom you've worked, because you've been doing this a long time, they include some of the real biggies like Spielberg and Peter Weir, Tim Burton, Paul Mazursky, Ron Howard, Milos Forman, Tom Hooper, my own former students, Bob Fulcini and Shari Berman for American Splendor, Tim Robbins, etc. Could you talk a little about which of these directors you think has basically enabled you to do your best work? I mean, what is it that a director can do vis-a-vis directing you that is, for you, the best?
Well, a lot of those people were amazing. But the people who leap to mind are your students, were once, yes, of course, and I wouldn't not say that sitting up here.
Thank you.
And Alexander Payne, and I suppose part of what they all did, and I've gotten this with other directors too, but this plus a lot of other things with them in particular, one of the first things that happened with them is that there's absolutely no question that they trust you, which, as simple as that sounds, is actually very hard to come by. A director who's confident enough to just say, you know what, I absolutely trust that whatever you're going to come in here with is going to be cool, and we're going to figure it out, and we're going to work with it, or at least can pretend that they trust you, and because it's a difficult thing to walk into a room and be, I'm going to do something really crazy, and you can't have a look of horror on your face when I'm done. You have to actually, if you want it different, you've got to work with me, and I've got to trust you. You know what I mean? There's got to be a really, really intense sense of trust that goes on, and that's first and foremost. But with those guys, both of those guys, I mean, they really let me go places and let me feel that I was able to go where I wanted to go, and they could still pull me around and shape me and work with me. I mean, there was a thing I did with Alexander. I always think of this when people ask me about this, which was there's a scene where my wife, I see my ex-wife at a wedding, and she tells me she's pregnant or something, and I get sort of, I don't know what to say, and I remember doing that day with Alexander because of the way that he worked so, he doesn't sit by a monitor, which most directors do with these little screens. He stands right next to the camera. And the way he was so feeling it with me, it was extraordinary. He was really right there, pressed up against it with both me and her. And he was pulling out things, seeing the tiniest things that I was doing. He kept pulling on them and pulling them this way and that, and it was amazing, and it was this incredibly microscopic work that was going on, but there was the sense of somebody watching you so carefully and getting more and more out of you. I don't know, it was amazing, and I mean, all that sounds obvious, but it doesn't happen very much.
Sure.
It really doesn't happen very much.
Now, in addition to being an actor on many films, you're starting to be credited as producer. For example, executive producer of Cold Souls, which I wanted to come to in a second. Whereas in Barney's version, the name of the production company is Totally Unnecessary Productions.
Yeah.
I like that. Your own production company is called Touchy Feely Films.
Yeah.
And I like that too. And I was curious.
Well, I always thought it'd be funny if it said a touchy-feely film opens up with somebody getting shot in the head. It says a touchy-feely film. Like that would be great. I just thought that'd be funny.
But you haven't done that one yet.
That was the whole reason behind the name of the company.
But the one on which you're credited is Cold Souls. I don't know how many of you got to see this about 2 years ago, in which Paul Giamatti plays an actor who decides to put his soul in storage after agonizing rehearsals for Uncle Vanya. And it's a pretty dark comedy.
It's a weird movie, yeah.
I quite liked it.
Yeah, it's a nice movie.
What does it mean that you are a producer, that you have a production company? Is it that you're looking for the kinds of stories you want to act in or get made in general?
Yeah, absolutely. I was interested not just in generating stuff for myself as an actor. In fact, I'd love to actually get to a point with doing that stuff where really it isn't about me being an actor in it. But right now, a lot of the time, what gets people interested is me maybe being an actor in it as well, which is fine because I can find interesting stuff. But yeah, definitely. I mean, a lot of it, that movie is kind of, like you say, it's a sort of dark comedy. It's a sort of fantastical, sort of science fiction-y movie. And I'm a big genre guy. And I have a great hankering to do sort of lower-end budgeted genre movies. And so that's a lot of the stuff we've been trying to do, which is sort of hell on earth trying to get those things made. But that's a lot of the ideas to do that kind of thing. But yeah, a lot of it's just because, I don't know, I just felt like, there's places I'd like to go, things I'd like to see done that won't probably normally get there. If I can sort of push them along, I'd be really happy to do that, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm curious, too, about some of the inspirations for you actors that have had the kind of career to which you aspire. I mean, I don't think I'm being in any sense disrespectful when I say that you're not just another pretty face, and that in fact you go for the kinds of roles that, I don't know, maybe Charles Lawton or Robert, Duvall you mentioned backstage.
Yeah, but Duvall's a good-looking man. I'm not, And he's going to be here next week, right?
Yeah.
You can tell him that I said he's a good-looking man.
I will.
No, right, Charles Lawton, yeah. Well, Charles Lawton would be somebody that I, I mean, the guys that I think of that I loved growing up and watching movies, I certainly couldn't, even begin to shine any of their shoes as an actor. I mean, Charles Lawton and Alec Guinness was a guy that I was fascinated by as a kid. And Duvall was another guy that I was really, really into. I was very much taken with, if I saw The Maltese Falcon or things like that, it was always Sidney Greenstreet and Peter Lorre that I was interested in when I was a kid. I was like, that fat guy's great. I'd be like, I want to be that fat guy in this thing. I was always drawn to those guys, and so it's a lot of actors like that, too, that I totally love. But Alec Guinness is actually kind of the guy to me that if I really think about, if I had to pick one guy that I think was, although Peter Sellers is pretty great, too.
Oh, yeah.
But
I can see how you would fix Peter Sellers.
yeah, well, I love Peter Sellers, but again, it's like, God, I wouldn't even begin to be able to approach anything that guy did. But Alec Guinness was very, very big for me as a kid growing up, and still, he's just amazing to me. The variety of the stuff he does, he's not flamboyant, he's not a big showy guy, although he could be at times, like The Horse's Mouth and stuff like that. He's pretty out there, but he was always very judicious and smart about it, and I don't know, he's just a wonderful actor. So.
Great. Yeah. See, now you're getting so damn popular, whether it's for films or television, but you started out on stage. Mm-hmm. I mean, I remember that if all of these Drama Desk nomination for Best Supporting Actor in Kevin Spacey's revival of The Iceman Cometh. Mm-hmm. I remember seeing you in Brecht's Resistible Rise of Arturo Ui with Al Pacino. Yeah. And Trevor Nunn directed you in Arcadia. The question is, do you still have the time and the desire to do theater, or is film just the consuming thing now?
I definitely have the desire more to do theater lately. I've been feeling it lately. I haven't done a play in about 6 years, I think. I think that Arturo Ui was about 6 years ago.
That's right.
I mean, sure, I'd have the time to do it. Yeah, I mean, sure, I could make the time to do it. I think I did I was surprised at how much the film thing occupied me. I didn't expect it to ever. I expected to do theater, and that's what I would be doing. And I would subsidize it doing, playing a homeless guy on Law and Order or something, which is the kind of thing, that's what I did. I played a lot of these guys in sleeping bags who were like, I didn't see anything, man. I did a lot of that. And I did a lot of that. And that's what I thought I would do. So I was surprised by the film thing going the way it did. And I still am, but I've been feeling the desire to do a play lately, yes, and for various reasons. I mean, I just feel kind of, I feel kind of lazy and flabby, and I'd like to get on a stage and get kicked around and toughened up again.
Well, talk to your old pal Kevin Spacey, because I mean he's doing a whole lot of theater.
It's true,
primarily in
yeah.
London.
No, it's true. I should talk to him about that play. Was an amazing experience. I mean, The Iceman Cometh. That's a play that you really get kicked around in, and you get tough in that play. And I should talk to him, see if he had something.
Actually, now that I think of it, Kevin Spacey and you, I think, have excelled in playing a similar type of guy on screen.
Yeah.
I mean, because I'm now thinking of these caustic, prickly, sometimes curmudgeonly guys who are very fast with the repartee. I mean, do you feel a kind of kinship in terms of contemporary actors with him?
I mean, I've worked with him I did a movie with him and a couple of movies with him and a play, and so I like him very much. I think there is some kind of aesthetic sensibility that is somewhat similar. Yes, I think there is. I think that is why I get along with him and I love him as an actor. Yes, I mean, I think that he has a similar willingness to be unpleasant.
Exactly.
On
That's
screen.
Exactly what I think.
Yeah,
it boils
no,
down
he
to.
does. He's happy to be unpleasant on screen.
Well,
and he's wonderful at it, and he's wonderful at being very funny and unpleasant. And so I think there is, yeah.
And I see it the way I introduced the film. When an actor doesn't try to ask for sympathy for the character, in other words, where you make it clear that you don't really care, that the character doesn't care, but in a way the actor doesn't care to make nice.
Yeah.
You know, that you just want to let the warts show. Would that be
Yeah,
about
absolutely.
right?
I'm very keenly interested in that. Yeah.
That works then.
All right.
I have to ask you about what I think is my favorite film in which you've appeared, and I know that people here are just going to groan or be totally, what is she talking about? Duets. This is my guilty pleasure. This is a movie.
Nobody's seen that movie.
No, but I'm sure of that. Somebody saw it on the album. It was directed by Bruce Paltrow, better known as the father of Gwyneth Paltrow and husband of Blythe Danner. And it's this delightfully
That's your
satiric.
favorite movie of mine that I've been in? Wow.
I know. Well, let's just say the favorite that no one,
Yeah, that nobody's seen,
I won't put it on the
fortunately.
same level as John Adams or,
No,
American Splendor, obviously. But I'm talking about guilty pleasures, the ones that nobody knows about. And in this movie, it's the ensemble piece about karaoke, which is the
About professional karaoke
democratizing
singers.
stage for, anyone can be a star. And among others, Paul Giamatti plays an on-the-road salesman of theme parks who hooks up with an ex-con played by Andre Braugher. And I must say, you do a wonderful rendition of Hello, I'm There, and Try a Little Tenderness.
Yeah, we do that Otis Redding song, me and him together.
And Scott Speedman, who plays Boogie, is in that film as well.
Yeah.
I have to ask you about, first of all, why do you think the movie never found an audience? Because I think it's great.
Yeah.
And your experience of making it, I mean, the whole notion of singing, was that liberating for you the way it was for your character?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it never found an audience because it's, it was an okay movie, as much as I'm glad you enjoy it. I like it too. Yeah, the singing thing was great because when I first auditioned for it, they said, they assumed I couldn't sing. I assumed I couldn't sing. They said to me, "Can you sing?" And I said, "No." And I thought they meant, "Can you sing well?" And so when they actually hired a guy to sing my parts in that movie, who was a beautiful, great singer. But the whole point of that character is he doesn't need to be a great singer. He's just this guy who doesn't care anymore, and he gets up on stage, and he's just so liberated by the singing that it doesn't even matter if he sings very well. So somehow, I don't know, the guy who was supposed to sing my part conned me into just doing it one day when we were staying there. He was supposed to be rehearsing his part with Andre, and so I did it, and they said, "Well, you can carry a tune. You're fine." And so I ended up doing it, and I actually loved doing it. It was very liberating. I loved it. It was one of the funnest things I've ever done. I loved it. It was amazing. And actually, they had to dub Andre's voice because he was supposed to sing in this extraordinary way that he sang really well, but he couldn't sing like that. So one of the greatest experiences I think I've ever had as an actor is I had to go into a studio and record the song with this guy, Arnold McCuller, who's this legendary backup singer for Aretha Franklin and all these people. And the sweetest guy in the world, this big, huge old guy, this incredible voice. And I had to sit there singing this Otis Redding song with this guy. It was the coolest thing I've ever done. It was really, really great.
Okay, well, I realize that this is a rather late evening. I just want to take this opportunity on behalf of the audience to tell you how much we appreciate
Thanks a lot.
seeing the movie and having you here.
Thank
Good
you.
luck with it.
Thank you.